So we attended and did a live CU podcast at Long On Retro Gaming Expo this past weekend, Ian. We had a good time.
We did. It was fun. Last week, when we were discussing all of the Amico documents, quite frankly, we were running long on the podcast, and there was stuff that we missed that we wanted to discuss in the fact book. There was a couple of key things in there that weren't in the pitch deck because this was internal, the fact book, that really pointed out how some of the marketing and the ever-changing face of the Amico was a lie. Internally, they were still relying on a lot of the retro market and stuff like that. So we go into that.
So that said, we're gonna transition now to us at Long Island with a lot of carbs from bagels and Italian pastries inside of us.
So last week we went over the pitch deck.
Pitch deck,
which would be the document that the employees of Intellivision or the CFO or CEO Tommy would have tried to hook unknowing investors into a bad business scheme. So we brought up the internal the fact sheet, or what the employees would then, like, I guess, when conversing with others, like this was for their eyes only. This document, the company overview, put together by Wedbush, where Michael Pachter actually works for that company. It's like a securities, and trading investment sort of company.
We looked at Pachter. We didn't talk about this on the podcast either, but we looked at Pachter, and he now resides at under 50% in terms of his predictions. That means Michael Pachter's analysis is worse than a coin flip.
Yes. There's websites that track the predictions of people, they're trading stocks or, yeah.
So the next time he tells you the Amico is going to sell 1 million units or that Nintendo's going to die, you can probably just disregard it.
He's going to die. So we went through some of this last week, but we didn't hit on some key points, and it was pointed out to us. Plus, we talked about this for forever last week. First of all, is there anyone here who is not familiar with the Intellivision Amico? If so, I envy you so much that you know nothing about it. Anyone else? We have one person, one in the back, 3. These are the well-balanced people that don't dedicate their lives. There's like 7 people. Okay, so it's a failed, awful video game console that was proposed in 2018, and then it was supposed to come out October 10, 2020. It didn't happen. They delayed it at least 3 times or 4 times. And then,
so they delayed the original date. They delayed the April date. They delayed the October date again.
Of 2021.
Yeah, and they didn't really say
end of year,
but they were like end of year 2021. They were like, we should have some units going out.
The point is that it was run into the ground, the company, and this isn't going to come out unless they get someone with a crazy amount of money to bail them out.
Ruined. It was run into the ground by Tommy Tallarico, who, if you did not know, is a Hall of Fame minor league baseball player.
Excuse me, a minor league Hall of Fame Yankee player.
Yeah, for the Yankees.
So any Yankee fans here, they're not that far in the Bronx. You've probably heard of them. Anyway, so we didn't discuss a couple of things here that really hit upon what they were trying to do. And again, these are the internal documents. This is the stuff they didn't want people to really, like drunken podcasters like us, to come see. So they hit upon that, Intellivision, it's an old 40-year-old IP at this point, and it's retro. So retro and vintage popularity are at their peak. Vintage gaming continues to rewrite history. This guy named Matt Piscatella said, great games plus nostalgia plus simplicity equals big dollars. So
the math is simple.
The math is simple, especially for the Intellivision. Okay, let's start with this. So this is going to be one of their tenets, I guess, in order to make this business work. Great games. So when you think of stuff in the past like Super Mario World, Legend of Zelda, Metroid, Street Fighter 2, those were what you called great games in the pantheon of retro gaming, right?
Yeah, not Astro Smash.
Shark,
Farkle.
Finnegan Fox.
Running out of steam.
Evil Knievel mobile game. So that's not
Cornhole.
Hey, Cornhole's a great game, but the one you toss in the backyard. So that's not what you would say is a great game. It has to be. Plus, it has to be earned. It's not up to someone else. It's not up to the person making the game or funding to say it's a great game. It's up to how it's received, how well it does, the critical reception.
Let's hit on the nostalgia aspect of this equation.
Which is what the CEO always claimed was not what they were banking on.
pause. I have no. If you love the Intellivision, I'm happy for you. We all need something that we're into, and the Intellivision is just as good of a thing to be into as anything else. However, I would argue if you were to claim to me that there is a widespread well of nostalgia to be tapped for the Intellivision.
Yes.
There's nothing.
And we said that now 4 years ago. We said that when then it was dead, and now it's 4 years later. We're talking about a console that's now almost 45 years old.
Yeah.
We're getting there. Came out 79. Yeah.
Look at us doing conventions again. Sitting here.
What?
Look at us doing conventions again. We're
Yeah.
sitting here. We're friends. We're buds. It's a good time. Just happy to be here. Anyway, continuing.
I was going to say, this isn't our first convention we've done this year, but okay.
I mean, it's...
Well, they don't know that. They don't know that.
My memory is only so long term.
So, great games plus nostalgia for games. So that's plus simplicity. So we talked about in the past how over-engineered the Intellivision Amico controller is. It is not simple.
In his quest to create the ultimate what the fuck ever, he wanted it so bad to be simple that he created all these ways for it to be simple, which immediately complicates it.
Sure.
He wanted the controller to be pick up and play and accessible to everyone. Yet you look at the any of the horrible deep dives they did on these shallow puddles. And for instance, the Missile Command one has like 3 different control schemes.
Tank Battle did as well.
Tank Battle did as well.
Yeah.
None of them really made sense. And
Shark had like a tutorial you had to like look through in order to play the game, and it's just about eating fish.
And the touchpad is overly sensitive to the point where none of this makes sense. If his goal was really to put this into the hands of grandmas, they're going to be upset.
Yes,
they're going to be angry.
And he used to bank on, imagine playing games with your mom again. And it was actually like someone cut up a video online about he would use this line, which is a script, in order to sort of melt the hearts of the people he was talking to on YouTube that were susceptible to this sort of chicanery and carny talk. Where like, yeah, if your mom could pick up this Amico controller and use it easily, do you think they would be able to? Versus, I don't know, like what's so complicated about a control pad and face buttons? Like, why is that?
Tommy, you got to stop being a mom weirdo.
Yeah, a mom weirdo. There's a graphic here about Nintendo unloaded more NES classics in 2 days than PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch sold all June. So it's interesting that you compare it to, a nostalgia, if you want to call it nostalgic grab, but the NES Classic was like the first product Nintendo did of that nature, really ever, an all-in-one unit. It was only $60. Remember, it was only $60 for that, for 30 games.
Yeah.
And good games.
It's $2 a game.
Yes, you only got that single controller on that, but there was other ways to hook up a second controller. The Intellivision Amico, if you wanted to compare it, you could have bought 4 NES classics for the cost before it went up again for an Intellivision Amico. 4 of them. And plus you got 30 games that were tried and true and classic versus 6 or 7 games where we didn't know all of them, and who knows. And they were like, you weren't playing them as long as Legend of Zelda. Shark, you weren't going to complete that quest. It wasn't the same breadth of playing Legend of Zelda. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I can agree with that. So you look at this equation, and obviously, I can't believe people get paid to say shit like this because it's so. Yeah, of course, if you have good games and nostalgia and simplicity, okay, great mathematician. But the problem is, there's a couple problems with this. One is Tommy, through the power of a book called The Secret, really loved to think he could just say something and it was true. So Tommy, in his head, wakes up in the morning and gets on his step stool and looks in the mirror and goes, I'm playing with the big boys today. I'm on the same level as Nintendo and Sony and Microsoft. So they look at something like Nintendo unloading more NES classics, and he tries to sell you on the fact that we're going to do this too. You don't have the stuff that the NES Classic has on it.
Yes, the NES Classic was 30 games distilled from a library of 800 North American and European games. So it's like that was the cream of the crop, and you had a lot to choose from, versus building from the ground up mobile quality games that someone could put together in literally weeks. Like that's not the same thing as playing Super Mario 2, playing Evel Knievel.
It's not even the same as Myland's Secret Castle, or no, that wasn't what was on there. It was the boy with the wand who makes the blocks.
The blue.
Fire and Ice was the sequel.
That was not on the NES Classic.
No. Solomon's Key.
Solomon's Key.
Solomon's Key was on the NES Classic. Thought it was.
That was on the Switch online. Sorry. I know we love We love Tecmo. We love Tecmo. I don't think that made the cut, Ian.
I thought it did.
That's a deeper cut.
Well, there were some weird ones on there. Anyway, moving on. You don't have the stuff to pick. You're not picking from the same pool.
Okay, we got the Yankees minor league baseball player. Moving on.
Quickly, the other problem is he never, in his outward marketing, it was disingenuous. His outward marketing, he said he was never going for the retro game market.
Yes, he came after us.
As soon as we,
Yes.
and I think we got that in his head, and I think we made him feel weird about it. As soon as we came out with criticisms of this, he immediately switched from the I'm going to debut my dream at Portland Retro Gaming Expo to I'm going after only families. I'm going after moms. I'm going after the grandparents who want to buy stuff, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
He swore up and down he wasn't going for that market, but here in the internal documents, it's clear that's probably the only market he could get if he could grab it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they got. That was going to be the base structure for the whole thing. Let's go down to page, I think, 17. Yes, the go-to market strategy. And we did not touch upon this as much as we should have. We talked about it a little bit like trying to get on the show Ellen, social media push.
He looks like he's falling over with the guitar, like he's going to fall backwards, like it's too heavy for him.
Well, it's the high energy rhythm. It's going to blow you away.
It's going to take me away.
So
Tellerico time.
So this is on their go-to market strategy. Leverage Tommy as a promotional celebrity, along with over 500,000 active fan base of Video Game Live concert series. Okay.
How many of you know how many of you sitting in here, if someone walked up to you and said, do you know who Tommy Tellerico is, would you be able to?
Before we started talking about this.
Well, no, I'm saying now, and then I was going to see how many of you would have known about him before the Intellivision Amico.
Okay.
A few. Right, and this is what I expected.
We got about 16 people.
People know him from music and stuff like that, but he's not someone you could leverage as a celebrity. And that's what I'm trying to
And then saying
put out
that
there.
you're going to advertise this garbage console to 500,000 people that literally come out to see an orchestrated musical show. That's not a target audience. There's no Venn diagram there that meets. There isn't.
So once in Buffalo, I went and saw a really cool show. It was Tom and Jerry cartoons, and then they did the orchestral score behind them.
Oh, wow.
I have no idea who put that show on. I just know that was a good show.
You saw it advertised. You didn't know who produced it.
Right, exactly. That's the exact same thing with here. No one is going to Video Games Live because they're like, man, I fucking love Tommy Tellerico and I want to support the shit out of him. No, they're like, oh, sweet, I can hear video game music.
Final Fantasy music.
Right, exactly.
And then the theme from Halo.
And then they're probably like, who's this guy who's like wankishly air guitaring on stage? But they leave. You're not leveraging a 500,000 plus active fan base.
Yeah.
You're not mobilizing them to go buy your console.
The next one is the one we really should have spoke about last week. Capitalize on nostalgia of Intellivision brand in 45 to 55-year-old segment.
So again, this system that is outwardly marketed as a family-friendly console for young hip parents and their spawn is internally 45 to 50-year-old segment, which in reality is all they ever got.
Yes. And the fact, again, that, we said this from the beginning, it's like, why are you capitalizing on it? You have the Running Man logo. You have the Intellivision name. You based your awful controllers on the original awful Intellivision controllers and the design. Why are you doing this? And Tommy would wade into the comment section of our video post and be like, that's not true. We're not banking on that. It literally says that in their internal document, that's what the whole point was, which was common sense. But because we said it, he couldn't acknowledge that we were correct on it, even though obviously we were.
I feel like I wouldn't have said this a year ago, but I feel like looking back on it, there are points where we said something, he got angry, and then I think internally changed the entire, or at least outward marketing-wise, changed what he was saying to not look bad in light of the criticisms.
But you were tied to this brand.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, when it comes to this, you were tied to this. It's what was going to happen. And then the next one is unfortunate, and we're going to really try not to punch down too much here. Segment marketing of Intellivision brand in retro game market channels. So, for all
I don't even know what that means. That's a lot of words to say nothing to me.
It means what Tommy's strategy was, which he stopped doing, going on all these smaller YouTuber channels, doing all these 2-hour interviews, going on these weekly Amico podcasts, and to him at least, and Intellivision, that was part of their market strategy, doing that.
Right. Which is...
It wasn't Tommy being a nice guy. It wasn't Tommy trying to help out these little small YouTubers. He wasn't just shooting the shit with his friends. This was part of their market strategy that you see in the document. There was a marketing ploy to get the information out there, because that was their 45 to 55-year-old segment, in order to hopefully drum up support, to show support for investors. They literally had a supercut of all the people on YouTube, a couple people we know, talking positively about the Amico and its prospects, and they would cut up all that stuff and show it to investors. They probably went into a meeting, had the pitch deck. Oh, here's our supercut video of all these quote-unquote influencers talking positively about the Amico. This was a direct market strategy.
Speaking of influencers, you'll see that with no explanation of how they're going to get them or if they have ever gotten them, the randomly listed names: Ellen DeGeneres, Sean Astin.
Yeah, we talked about that last week.
Sean Astin.
We're going to get a Goonie.
Jim, I mean, I love Sean Astin, but
who doesn't love Samwise?
When has he ever been a pitchman for anything?
I don't know.
Jim Parsons,
he did narrate a video game documentary. I think it was a Power Up. Was it that one? Yeah.
Legos and Vans.
Yes. Get the shoes.
We're gonna get a piece together.
Can we? I wish we could blow up. Can you see the demo pictures they have there of like what it would look like in the mall, showing off the Amico?
Oh yeah,
that's what that is. It's really tiny.
Oh my God, it's a trailer that looks like an Amico with a big open footbath space, and that's the window that like.
Yeah, it's probably hard for. Well, they can probably see it better than us. How large it is behind us.
So that never happened.
No,
by the way, if you needed to be reminded that.
Yeah,
that
they wanted to do a mall. They wanted to do mall tours. Tommy had said that was part of their marketing strategy, like it was 1998.
Amen. I mean, I saw the Philips CDI Nintendo games at a mall tour.
There you go.
But that was like 1992 or 3.
And that was a huge success. You saw how well the CDI
right.
did.
So if you've got a mall tour, you're gonna do fine.
I remember the CDI being demoed at Nobody Beats the Wiz. Shout out Nobody Beats the Wiz. All right, come on. This is the audience that knows what that is. They hung in there till like the mid-2000s, I think, right? They hung in there. And then additional opportunities, Ian.
What page is that? I just lost it.
18.
Thank you.
Intellivision is in an optimal position to take advantage. Yes, 18. Take advantage of the intersection of video games, sports entertainment, and healthcare. Oh boy, how did we miss this last week? We didn't miss this on purpose in order to milk this.
The healthcare reminds me of like all the things you learned to say in grade school to convince your parents that video games were good. I mean, it doesn't say hand-eye coordination, but it does say spatial navigation.
Hey, the Power Pad is healthcare. It's fitness. Esports. Intellivision will make esports accessible to everyone.
What are we doing?
Grandma's gonna get into that league. Shark League.
We are the Rec League of esports.
Mm-hmm. Sponsor backed promoted tournaments for amateurs, as well as locally commissioned intramural and recreational leagues. They thought they're going to have local Amico leagues set up for their games.
Amico Sports. They're going to sweep the nation.
Even if the games were, let's say, good. Let's say they're good and fun.
Sure.
The logistics you would need in order to do these events, so it would be a whole another business arm. This is not Nintendo never got into.
I was just going to say
they did the Power Fest stuff in the early '90s, and that was it. And that was just local promotional stuff for new games.
I hate to always bring Nintendo into it to compare against the Amico, but again, if this was something that was going to work, Nintendo would have set it up with Wii Sports or Switch Sports or something like that.
And monetized the hell out of it.
And monetized it. They would have had the arenas. They would have had the sponsorships, the club memberships. You could do this. No one did it for a reason, Tommy.
The esports market continues to gain momentum. However, it excludes the casual gamer completely. Amico will allow the casual gamer to compete with the launch of the gamer rating system.
Because there's never been matched lobbies before in any video game. Not once. We've never, ever seen that.
I just think it's funny how he was banging on, oh, these are casual. This is like a board game. You play these games for like 15, 20 minutes. That's all they're designed to. Now we're going to have you start competing professionally, potentially.
Professional shark.
Professional cornhole, which exists like in reality.
It does.
Professional Farkle. We could do professional yacht. It's like a Yahtzee type
Pro
of game.
Yahtzee.
Healthcare benefits. Here you go. You want to go over through the healthcare benefits?
Yeah, so spatial navigation, okay. Reasoning enhances understanding of logic and self-regulation. Dubious, Tommy. Memory and perception, practicing to focus and concentrate through puzzles and games.
We saw no puzzle, or I guess they were trying to do. They were trying to do. Oh yeah, one of the physical products was like a brain game.
games, but it was poorly ripped from an iOS, and we never actually saw it in action. I don't think. I think
okay.
one of the events.
They might have had
One of the stops on the Bangarang tour was they showed that one off.
problem-solving skills, and then group participation and teamwork. So this is just at this point we're going to throw everything against the wall and see what sticks. Healthcare.
You see them emptying their bowels of ideas right here on this page. It's just everything is there between the past two pages.
So I felt we had to go over some of it since we kind of missed it last week, and then you have some specs of the console and controller there.
You get another like graph that looks like someone just put some paper up on a wall and threw a couple pieces of putty at it, and they're like, "Sure, we can draw lines."
Yeah, we went through
that.
this last time, but yeah, so that's it. And then there's the insane financial projections again that this year they were going to make $221 million.
It says here on track for 10/10/20 launch date, which was totally not true. Also, we have successful demo at E3 2019 here on the page that says Intellivision heading in the right direction. By all accounts, this was dead after E3 2019.
Yeah. So that's the internal document that if you were a part of Intellivision, imagine being hired for Intellivision just to be like a programmer or work on IT. They'd probably make you like read this on your first day. You sign you're signing your W-2 stuff, and then it's like, oh, take a look at the internal data doc so you know what the company you're working for, and you have to like read through this. How horrific a first day that would have been.
Oh, yeah, awful.
Just terrible.
And then just stopping on page 24 again real quick. I know we talked about the wanton splashing of company logos all over the place.
Wonton splashing? Is that a new
It's a term.
qualifier?
Wonton splashing of logos. Marvel. I don't know how I overlooked that.
Did we overlook that?
I don't think Tommy ever once even insinuated that he was going to do any superhero or related stuff. Or Disney, for that matter.
Oh, Tron.
Oh, Tron.
You can say Tron.
Tron.
Yeah, even on the huge Atari HP, you're right. I don't think I ever saw something that Marvel throw. Well, he loves Spider-Man, so he had to put it on there.
Right.
Probably.
It's just wish casting.
So there you go. That's the story of the Intellivision Amico internal fact data sheet.
Facts.
Which is terrible.
Factual information.
All right, I'm going to cut the signal there because that's because it's awful to look at.
We're back.
We're back. Well, that was a thing that happened.
That sure was.
Ian's tired from doing that talk.
That was a
apparently.
long
Back
convention.
then.
A long panel.